I started franchising when I was 66 years old. It's the same company that I sold for $2 million, sold for $240 million yesterday. I didn't get any of that.
Colonel Harlan Sanders was born on a humble farm in Indiana on September 9, 1890. His father's early death forced his mother to take on various odd jobs, leaving young Sanders responsible for caring for his two siblings. Starting cooking at the tender age of 7, he honed his skills late into the night, becoming quite adept by age 10. Despite landing a farm job at 10, he was dismissed for favoring animal care over his assigned tasks. Drawing ire from his mother, determined to prove himself, Sanders vowed success but faced further hardship when his mother remarried a cruel man. At age 12, he left home, securing dawn chores at another farm, attending school by day, and taking on extra work in the evenings. Schooling, particularly algebra, held little appeal, leading him to drop out at just 13, mere weeks into 7th grade. Sanders would go on to try a huge variety of different jobs in his early years. These included becoming a streetcar conductor, an insurance salesman, tire salesman, steamboat operator, midwife secretary, and a carriage painter. He even had a brief stint in the U.S. Army as a soldier and served in Cuba when he was just 15 years old, although this wasn't how he became known as a colonel, as he was only in the Army for about 6 months before getting discharged, most likely because he was found to have been underage by the time he turned 18. Sanders got married and then went on to have 3 kids. Of course, he needed money to support his family and decided to try and get a more professional job, working in the legal field. He took a law course that was done via mail, but his law career ended when he got into a courtroom role with one of his own clients, which destroyed his reputation. So Sanders later got a job working at the railroad, but when he got fired from that, as well, his wife Josephine decided to leave him. She reportedly gave away all their furniture and house on goods and took their kids back to her parents' house. Sanders was destroyed by this. He'd not only lost his job, he'd now seemingly lost his family. He went over to their house and hid in the woods, but the plan to essentially kidnap his kids and take them home with him when they came outside to play. But thankfully, at the last moment, he instead decided to speak for his father-in-law, who made him see sense. And so Sanders instead went inside to make things right with his wife and eventually got back together with her. However, Sanders just couldn't catch a break because that would end in tragedy. In 1947, Sanders divorced his wife after one of their sons died. At just 20 years old, their marriage had fallen apart soon after because they both struggled to come to terms with the grief. So, as you can see, the first half of Harlan Sanders' life was played with failures and sadness, but luckily, a very unlikely development was about to change his life forever. At the age of 40, Sanders landed a job at a Kentucky Shell gas station. To supplement his income, he tapped into his culinary skills, setting up a makeshift dining area in the back room, where he served ham steaks, string beans, and hot biscuits to customers. Initially, fried chicken wasn't on the menu due to its lengthy preparation time, but Sanders, recognizing the potential, experimented with pressure cooking techniques. After much trial and error, he perfected a method that cooked chicken in just 8 or 9 minutes while maintaining its flavor. He enhanced the dish further with his secret blend of 11 herbs and spices. Sanders's gas station fare quickly gained popularity, with travelers flocking to taste his renowned chicken. To boost sales, he utilized barn door advertisements, drawing the ire of a competitor, Matt Stewart. Despite warnings, Stewart persisted in defacing Sanders's signs, leading to a confrontation where gunfire erupted, resulting in the tragic death of one of Sanders' associates. While Stewart received a lengthy prison sentence, Sanders was exonerated on grounds of self-defense. The incident solidified Sanders' local dominance, propelling his gas station food sales to new heights. In 1935, his contributions to Kentucky cuisine earned him the honorary title of Colonel, bestowed by Governor Ruby Laffoon. Embracing the title, Sanders rebranded himself as Colonel Sanders, a name that would become synonymous with his culinary empire. As demand for his food soared, Sanders expanded, transitioning from the gas station to full-fledged restaurants. However, setbacks loomed as a fire ravaged his establishment in 1939, followed by a decline in customers due to the diversion of a new interstate highway. Forced to auction off his business, Sanders found himself at a crossroads at age 65, relying solely on his modest savings and Social Security income. Contrary to rumors of despair, Sanders remained resilient, viewing his challenges as opportunities for reinvention. With determination, he embarked on a new venture, setting the stage for his most significant breakthrough yet. What if, instead of running a restaurant himself, he could franchise it? He'd allow other restaurants to sell his chicken and charge 4 cents for every piece sold. So, Sanders loaded a bunch of pressure cookers into his car, along with a big bag of his famous seasoning, and hit the road in his 1946 Ford. His plan was to travel across the United States, finding potential franchisee restaurants. However, it wasn't an easy life. Living out of his car and traveling non-stop was exhausting. When he found a suitable restaurant, he convinced the owner to let him cook his chicken for their employees. If they liked it, he stayed for a few days to cook for their customers, hoping they'd like it enough to become a franchisee. Sanders faced rejection after rejection, reportedly being turned down 1,009 times before finally finding someone to agree. His first successful franchise came in 1952, when Pete Harmon of South Salt Lake in Utah agreed to sell Sanders chicken. Harmon's sales tripled in the first year once he began selling the Colonel's Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe. It was Harmon who coined the phrase, "finger lickin' good," which later became the slogan across the KFC chain. Within a couple of years, everything changed. Sanders no longer needed to make those long road trips to find new partners. People started coming to him instead. By the end of 1963, he'd franchised over 600 outlets across the US and Canada, building a company worth millions. Within a few more years, that number rose to 900 outlets, including some in the UK and Japan. Sanders Chicken was a huge hit, and the franchise model was a massive success. He had finally made it, achieving financial security after years of struggle. However, that's not the end of the story. KFC was flourishing, but one day, a group of entrepreneurs and investors led by a 29-year-old named John Brown approached Sanders with an offer. They wanted to buy his business. John was astounded to learn that KFC didn't even have a sales team and relied solely on word-of-mouth referrals from restaurant owners to expand its franchise network. John saw immense potential in the business and envisioned rapid expansion with a more aggressive sales approach. After initially turning down their offer, Sanders reconsidered. Despite his deep attachment to his business, he was persuaded by John's promises. John increased the offer to $2 million and pledged to uphold the integrity of Sanders' recipe and maintain rigorous quality control. He also insisted on Sanders staying on as an advisor and brand ambassador, recognizing the value of Sanders as the face of the company. In 1964, at the age of 73, Sanders agreed to sell his business, believing it would afford him more time to enjoy life's later stages. With the sale, Sanders officially became a millionaire. However, he remained actively involved in publicity campaigns, traveling worldwide for promotions and appearing in numerous TV ads, donning his iconic white suit. Meanwhile, under John's leadership, KFC underwent significant changes that propelled its growth and expansion. However, in 1971, John Brown sold the company to a giant food conglomerate, marking the beginning of a new era for KFC. In contrast to John, who had agreed not to alter the Colonel's recipes, the new owners of KFC took a different approach. For instance, they changed the gravy to a cheaper and easier-to-make version. A company executive at the time remarked, "Let's face it, the Colonel's gravy was fantastic, but you had to be a Rhodes Scholar to cook it." As KFC expanded rapidly and sought streamlining, they implemented various changes. However, when Sanders visited many KFC stores himself and sampled the new recipe, he was highly critical. He described the gravy as horrible and likened it to pure wallpaper paste. Sanders also disparaged the chicken, calling it nothing but a damn fried dough ball stuck on some chicken. His public criticism led to a lawsuit by a KFC franchisee for libel in 1978, although the case was ultimately dismissed. Sanders was deeply dissatisfied with the direction KFC was taking under the new owners. In response, he opened his own competing restaurant under the name Claudia Sanders, the Colonel's Lady Dinner House. This move resulted in KFC suing Sanders, sparking a bitter legal battle over the copyright of his name and the use of the Colonel branding. Sanders, in turn, attempted to sue the new owners for misusing his image in promoting products he hadn't developed, seeking $122 million in damages. Eventually, they reached a settlement, with Sanders receiving $1 million, but having to rename his competing restaurant to simply Claudia Sanders Dinner House. This restaurant still operates today and is the sole place to get the original Colonel Sanders fried chicken. Sanders remained resilient until the end. Despite setbacks and tragedies, he persevered, starting his new business model at 65 and becoming a millionaire by 74. In his own words, every failure can be a stepping stone to something better. Sanders continued working until a month before his death in 1980, at the age of 90. Today, there are over 25,000 KFC outlets worldwide, all tracing their origins back to a man cooking chicken in a gas station.